I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting of the town of Saugeen Shores. And then the first order of business is a declaration of pecuniary interest, and I'll remind every member of your responsibility. None declared. Then the next item is additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda, and we have nothing under that. So we move down to adoption of minutes. It's been moved by Councillor Matheson and seconded by Councillor Mike Myatt that council adopt the minutes of council meeting of March 29, 2016 as presented. Errors or omissions? All in favor? That's carried. Next is committee of the whole minutes of March the 29th, and it's been moved by Councillor Mike Myatt and seconded by Councillor Matheson. The council note and file the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of March 29, 2016 and March 31st, 2016 as presented. Is there any errors or omissions? Not. All in favor? That's carried. The next item is a special committee of the whole meeting, and it's been moved by Councillor Grace and seconded by Councillor Dave Myatt. Oh, I got the wrong one here. Oh, they were both in one. Sorry. I'm trying to get out of here. You can put it in the minutes if you want. Oh, thanks, Linda. The next is a report of the Committee of the Whole. It's a general government report of March the 29th, 2016. And it's been moved by Councillor Grace and seconded by Councillor Dave Myatt that Council adopts the general government report dated March 29th, 2016, recommending that the Stop-Gap Community Ramp Program policy be approved as amended. Questions? Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Just as for clarification, because there's a couple of BIA people here that from Southampton that this conversation went on about the 2 or the 5 million. The report says 2 million.
Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support the resolution. Obviously, it's a great program. There was one thing that was raised at that BIA meeting, which is worth noting at this stage and potentially acting on hereafter, and that is the existence of existing ramps at businesses that have them today. That one of the great benefits of this program, probably the best benefit of this program really, is the ability to get the encroachment that's necessary for these ramps to be in existence. And some of these existing properties have ramps that are good ramps, sometimes purchased and at a high quality, that may not have encroachment agreements at this time, which we should look for a way to fit them into this program so that they can also benefit from the same kind of encroachment permission that these ones will have. So I'll certainly support this, but I'm wondering, Mr. Mayor, perhaps the clerk could look at that possibility and see if we can accommodate those existing ramps. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I think that shouldn't be a problem at all. Any further comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is a report of municipal officers, and there's a staff report to it. I'll read the motion today. It's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber and seconded by Councillor Minaj that Council approves the single-source purchase of a demonstrator Pierce pumper fire truck at a cost of $530,000 plus applicable HST. And I know we have our fire chief here. Chief, can you tell us what a great deal you got here?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the interest of time, I'll keep my comments brief and answer any questions. The staff information report was received by committee last meeting, and we evaluated the truck, and it was very favorable to our needs. It's a cleaner truck, a demonstrator truck with just over 20,000 kilometers on it, and it'll come with a full warranty, and recommending the purchase of it.
Thanks, Phil, and thanks for your efforts in this. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The next item is a striking committee report, and it's been moved by the Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, seconded by Councillor Rich. The Council adopts the striking committee report dated April the 1st, 2016, recommending the following. 1, that Feldman, Dax, and Partners be retained to provide CAO recruitment services at a cost of $27,000 plus applicable taxes. And 2, that staff be directed to prepare a report regarding the structure of the Planning Advisory Committee and the Committee of Adjustment for Council's consideration. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And I'm going to, this is, I was going to ask you to read this one, Diane, but I'll try. Pretty lengthy, and you really don't want me to read all that, do you? You do? All right. Yeah, I'll just read what we say is the operative clause. It's a good description and written very well. But what it is, it says, now therefore be it resolved that Council strike a Southampton Town Hall ad hoc committee to review consultation, assessment, and planning documents concerning the Southampton Town Hall and the public lands immediately adjacent to and surrounding this building, and engage in further research and consultation with residents, community partners, stakeholders, including the Bruce County Library and current tenants, to provide to Council priorities for necessary or advantageous actions concerning structural repairs, renovations, or additions to the Southampton Town Hall, the aesthetic and functional revitalization of the public lands surrounding the Town Hall, and opportunities to enhance programming and usage to develop and sustain the Southampton Town Hall and adjacent public lands for the future, and that the Southampton Ad Hoc Committee be appointed to serve for a period of 6 months, and further that a member of the Municipal Heritage Committee be included as a member of this Ad Hoc Committee in respect of this committee's mandate to provide advice and support to Council on matters concerning heritage and designated structures. That was moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber and seconded by Councillor Matheson. Comments? I'll start with you, Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to just say that through observation and conversation and tonight delegation, I am thoroughly convinced that the Saugeen Shores, the former town hall in Southampton, is an important piece of the community. It serves a very important function. It is being utilized probably more now than it has been in the past decade or so, perhaps more. I'm also convinced that there are issues with the structure that need to be addressed in order to preserve it and keep that usage at the level that it's at. I'm yet to be fully convinced that another committee is required. I was under the impression that repairs to designated buildings, which I believe this is one, fall under the mandate of the Municipal Heritage Committee. And my memory serves me, if my memory serves me correctly, that whenever we get into the talk of striking more committees, which at the onset of this council, there was much discussion about striking committees for this, that, and the other thing. We were always reminded that it adds another level of burden to the staff who have to attend and record and set up these meetings, and that it doesn't always serve the purpose of forwarding the agenda. And the other thing that concerns me a little bit about the way this motion is structured is that it infers that there is going to be improvements, because we wouldn't put a committee together if you didn't envision doing anything. So it kind of it sets up the impression that at some point in the future there is going to be money put aside through the budgeting process for some sort of significant, I'm not talking just putting out some lights and fixing the stairs, although the stairs was an important fixture to be replaced. There's an expectation being set here for the residents of Southampton and for the residents of Saugeen Shores as a whole, that there's going to be some significant money put aside, and that's something that I hate to see us predisposed to that decision without the Municipal Heritage Committee or some committee coming back and saying this is the depth and breadth of what may be envisioned as required to bring this building back to, in my mind, maintain its current status. I don't see myself being in favor of restoring it to its original condition, but certainly to maintain its usage and viability in its current status. So those are just a couple concerns that I have with this.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Minaj.
I think it's important to note that Councillor Mayette is correct, and I do expect that these findings of this committee will bring back priorities and will bring back required expenses, and my sincere hope is that we find money in the budget to make those improvements to the Southampton Town Hall. And I do note that he says, well, maybe we won't be able to get all the way, if all the way is a really expensive number, but I fully expect it to cost money, and I fully expect to approve money to help renovate or get the Southampton Town Hall into a strong structure from its original time back again. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like the idea of bringing a bunch of people together. To have a conversation about this building and talk about how, what is the Southampton Town Hall needs a driving use. We need to decide what is that building going to do for the years to come, and then how do we build a great facility there? How do we turn it into the great facility it needs to be to accommodate those uses? And having that conversation with all these stakeholders is something that we need to do in order, I think, to settle on that. And I know that there are organizations and groups in Southampton and across the community, I think, who are eager to help with that work and do that work. And I'm keen on empowering them to do some of that work. So I like the concept, and also it worked well very early in this term when we didn't strike a committee. What we did with the pool, as a prime example, was we asked our staff to report back to Committee of the Whole with recommendations on the future of the pool, and the expectation there was that staff would strike that working group of those representatives, those stakeholders, the people who are listed here, would consult with them, work with them, and come up with the recommendation for Committee of the Whole. And I thought, and having participated directly in those consultations, I think it worked really well, and those people had the opportunity then to have great input, and we could then, and then staff had the opportunity to structure a recommendation based on those consultations to actually, give us a direction forward in a really clear, concise way. And that also clarified what the staff involvement would be, gave the administration the opportunity to decide what staff involvement would be. So I had a really great experience, I think, with that concept. So I just wondered if Vice Deputy Mayor or the Secretary had given any thought or would have any support to the concept of, rather than striking an ad hoc committee, directing staff to return to Committee of the Whole with some recommendations on the future of the Town Hall, and requiring that staff undertake a consultation of this nature with these stakeholders as part of that process.
Go ahead.
I don't agree that that's a good way forward with this, and just to use the pool situation as an example, it did work with that to a certain extent, but quite frankly, there's still a lot of questions in the community about the pool, and we now so we never really got we got something realized, but then some other factors came in there, and we're waiting now for a recreation master plan, and so I don't think we've answered the pool question yet. So it worked to a certain extent. I think that there's enough people in the community who have already participated in things, and there's groups that would be potential partners in the future of the town hall, either as tenants or as fundraisers or whatever, that I think there's meaning behind an ad hoc, and certainly we had some success with a waterfront ad hoc, which is still a waterfront ad hoc, and it's working towards an action plan and some real stuff at the beach. And I think the intent here is that the same opportunity exists for another area of the community that is a cultural and very viable part of the community to consider as well. So no, I hadn't thought about it in the way that you're just suggesting. Thanks.
Councillor Mike Myatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do support what our our deputy mayor is saying, and I for one think there needs to be a whole lot more consultation for the 2011 Tor Dingman report. It was an assessment report done for the Southampton Town Hall, and I think too many plans collect dust. I think that plan needs to be dusted off and brought to the forefront, and the community brought together. I think staff should be directed to come back to this council with a staff report to say to us, this is how we think we can engage the entire community with this process. Not an ad hoc committee of 4, 5, 6 people, but engage the entire community with stakeholder meetings, public meetings, and get people together in a hall a few times and talk about what's needed for the future of the Southampton Town Hall. So I'm all in favor of dusting off that report. I'm also all in favor of directing it back to staff to dust that report off and come forth with some recommendations how we plan on generating some interest in the community to discuss what the future holds for Southampton Town Hall. So I do support what our fellow councillor Mayette's saying and our deputy mayor. So,
Councillor Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we direct staff to create a report, then we're putting more onus on the staff. The ad hoc committee will take the suggestions of the community, and in working with a staff member or a couple of staff members, I think that would reduce their workload. However, it's not a matter of if or when. The Southampton Town Hall needs some work. Accessibility is a huge thing. We have to have everything fixed up by early 2020. Our steps, our washrooms, that has to come. Whether it's a staff report or not, I think the biggest thing is this is the cultural hub of the town. It needs to be looked after by a committee that will put not only what they feel the best interest for them, but for the community together. And I believe staff could do that, but I think the best way to go through this is with a committee.
Okay, Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly, I would have to agree with the Vice Deputy Mayor and Councillor Matheson. I think that part of the process that we're trying to capture and preserve that I think we already have sparked a lot of interest and support in the community, and I think carrying that forward with a committee that is a great way of continuing that support. We're going to need some fundraising support for this, I think, and I think forming an ad hoc committee and welcoming more direct public engagement, I think would make that kind of effort more successful. So I support an ad hoc committee as well.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And well, frankly, I can go there with you guys if that's what you think is the right thing. I don't. My last hope here would be to kibosh the momentum that the Vice Deputy Mayor I know has built over this, but by messing with it. I guess my only suggestion would be, and I wonder if the Vice Deputy Mayor would consider a minor amendment that this be a direction to the striking committee to strike this ad hoc committee, as opposed to council striking it, a wording change so that the striking committee can put together the details around this, as well as staff support in these things, so that the striking committee can handle that and report back.
I think that's what I was going to suggest I would suggest.
I agree. I didn't think I had to do that. I thought it was implied.
I was going to say, just to clarify, and I appreciate that, Diana, and I think that's probably we can vote on this motion, but I think that the intent would be that this go back to striking committee for a recommendation on, it doesn't have a number and it doesn't have any really guidelines. We can bring it back here probably in a couple of weeks with some pretty clear direction and go forward with it. Is there comfort with that? Okay, then I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. There's one other motion here. It's a notice of motion, and it's on the agenda for you, and we'll be doing the same thing with this motion in 2 weeks from now. So it's there, and I'm not going to read the whole motion for you, but it is available on the website and on the agenda. So we're now at bylaws. the first bylaw is to remove the holding provision on 761 Waterloo Street, and it's been moved by Councillor Minaj, seconded by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, that bylaw 39-2016, being a bylaw to remove the holding provision from lands described as 761 Waterloo Street, Part Lot 4, Market, North-South Plan 296, being Part 4, Reference Plan 3R-561, Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 11th day of April 2016. Any questions or comments to the motion or bylaw? Not all in favor. Opposed, if any. That's carried. Next is authorizing an agreement with SMART, Saugeen Mobility, and Regional Transit. So it's been moved by Councillor Mike Myatt and seconded by Councillor Matheson that bylaw 40-2016, being a bylaw to authorize an amendment to the partnership agreement with Saugeen Mobility and Regional Transit, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 11th day of April 2016. Questions or comments to the motion or bylaw? All in favor? Opposed, if any. That's carried. The next is appoint. This is there's a story for us, and then it's not here. It's an appoint Adam Stanley, Manager of Engineering Services and Drainage Superintendent. So it's been moved by Councillor Rich and seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau that bylaw 41-2016, being a bylaw to appoint a Drainage Superintendent for the Corporation of the Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 11th day of April 2016. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So the next item is the confirmatory bylaw, and it's been moved by Councillor Dave Myatt, seconded by Councillor Grace, that bylaw 42-2016, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 11th day of April 2016. All in favor? That's carried. It's been moved by Councillor Rich and seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau that this regular council meeting of April 11th, 2016 hereby adjourn at 9:25 p.m. All in favor? We're adjourned.